In an isolated mansion, a sick and exhausted little girl of only 5 years old is forced by her own father to clean every corner of the enormous mansion every day without rest or affection. One day, while crying alone, the purebred white horse that belongs to the wealthy man watches everything through the window and feels that something is very wrong. The animal realizes that the girl's situation is critical. Due to the inhumane conditions in which the little girl was kept, she was becoming increasingly ill. On a stormy night, the girl, locked in a room and moaning with fever, cannot resist and faints. The horse sees everything through the window, and what he does in the following minutes is so risky and tense that it defies all understanding. Before we continue, if you, like us, love animals, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any emotional stories. Thank you. Let's return to our story. Only evil had been born when the first sobs echoed through the corridors of the imposing Valle das Rosas mansion. Sofia, a girl of only 5 years old, was already standing, her small fingers gripping tightly the handle of a broom, almost bigger than herself. Her brown hair tied in a poorly made ponytail framed a pale face, marked by early dark circles. The cough that had been chasing her for days seemed to worsen with each morning. From the top of the marble staircase, Eduardo Montenegro, the richest man in the region, watched his daughter with icy eyes. Wearing an impeccably tailored suit, he checked his gold watch for the third time in less than 5 minutes. "Sofia!" His voice thundered through the room, making the girl shudder. "You still haven't finished sweeping the entrance hall. Do you know what happens when you don't fulfill your duties on time?" The little girl quickened her movements, ignoring the dizziness caused by the fever. Her hands trembled as she tried to coordinate the broom, which was too heavy for her small body. Suddenly, a new coughing fit made her stop momentarily, and a solitary tear rolled down her freckled cheek. "I don't want your tears dirtying my freshly waxed floor," Eduardo warned, descending a few steps. "Finish that quickly and go to the library. The shelves need to be dusted before my meeting with the investors." Sofia felt it in silence, swallowing back her sobs. Through the enormous mansion windows, she could see the first rays of sun touching the green fields that stretched to the horizon. A movement caught her attention. Principe, her father's majestic white horse, was grazing peacefully near the house. The animal lifted his head as if sensing the girl's gaze. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Sofia felt a comforting wave of warmth in her chest. It was as if, in that fleeting instant, an invisible connection was established between two lonely souls. "Sofia!" Eduardo's sharp voice brought her back to reality. "Stop daydreaming and finish your tasks, or would you prefer to spend the night in the back room again?" The back room. Just thinking about that dark, cold cubicle without windows, where she was locked up as punishment, sent a shiver down Sofia's spine. Her back still ached from the last time she had slept on the hard floor of that place 3 days ago, when she had failed to finish cleaning all the mansion's windows. Maria, the oldest cook in the house, hurried through the hall carrying a tray with Eduardo's breakfast. Her eyes met Sofia's for a moment, full of restrained pity. The woman wanted to help, as she had tried many times before, but Eduardo's threats were clear. Any employee who interfered would be immediately fired. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and buttered toast made Sofia's stomach growl. Her last food had been a piece of hard bread the night before, secretly offered by Maria when Eduardo was already retired to his quarters. While sweeping, Sofia vaguely recalled the face of her mother, Laura, one of the mansion's former maids. Her memories were fragmented, more sensations than clear images. The warmth of a hug, a whispered lullaby, the soft scent of lavender. Laura had left when Sofia was only 2 years old, taken by an illness that Eduardo had refused to treat properly. A distant neigh caught her attention again. Principe was still near the window, his white coat shining under the morning sun. The horse, a gift from an important local farmer, was Eduardo's pride, although the animal never showed the same enthusiasm for his owner as he did for the stable hands. Sofia finished sweeping the hall, her arms aching from the effort. Her head throbbed, and her throat burned more and more. She knew she should go to the library immediately, but her eyes remained fixed on Principe. The horse was now slowly walking toward the nearest window, as if wanting to get closer to her. Eduardo descended the last step of the staircase, his Italian shoes echoing on the floorless floor. He stopped beside Sofia, critically inspecting the girl's work. "Acceptable," he muttered, without any trace of approval in his voice. "Now go to the library, and remember, if you find a single speck of dust on the shelves when I return, you know what your punishment will be." Sofia gripped the broom tighter, trying to control the trembling in her hands. As she headed to the library, she cast one last glance at Principe. The horse had reached the window and was watching her intently, as if he could feel her anguish. At that moment, something changed subtly in the air of the Valle das Rosas mansion. It was as if an ancient magic began to awaken, weaving the first threads of a story that would forever change the life of a little girl, and of the majestic white horse, watching her through the glass. Sofia entered the library with hesitant steps, carrying her small cleaning bucket. The scent of old books and polished wood filled the room, and the golden morning light filtered through the red velvet curtains, casting dancing shadows on the shelves that rose to the ceiling. In other times, this had been her favorite place in the mansion. Before Eduardo forbade her from touching the books, Sofia used to sit hidden among the shelves, leafing through illustrated volumes and dreaming of distant worlds. Now, her fingers could only touch the spines of the books to remove dust, a constant reminder of her place in the house. She climbed the wooden ladder carefully, balancing the duster. Her cough had worsened, and every breath caused a sharp pain in her chest. From the top of the ladder, she could see through the library's side window, where Principe still stood, as if standing guard. A noise at the door made Sofia turn around startled, almost losing her balance. It was Helena, the housekeeper, a stern-looking lady who had arrived at the mansion shortly after Laura's death. "Your father ordered me to supervise your work today," she announced, adjusting her gold-rimmed glasses. "The investors are very important people, and everything needs to be perfect." Sofia nodded, trying to suppress a coughing fit. Helena approached, and for a moment, her expression softened. "Girl, that cough is not good at all," she murmured, more to herself than to Sofia. Then, as if remembering her role, she straightened up. "Keep working. The sooner you finish, the sooner you can rest." The hours dragged on as Sofia meticulously cleaned each shelf. Her arms ached, and the fever seemed to rise with every passing minute. Helena remained seated in a nearby armchair, dividing her attention between an embroidery and the girl's work. Near noon, a familiar sound came through the slightly open window, the soft neigh of Prince. Sofia discreetly looked outside and saw the horse pressing his muzzle against the glass, fogging it with his breath. It was the first time the animal had come so close to the library. Helena also noticed the horse's unusual behavior. "Strange," she commented, frowning. Prince had never been one to approach the house so closely. "Your father will not like this at all." Sofia felt a lump in her throat. The last thing she wanted was to cause trouble for Prince. However, the horse seemed determined to stay there, his dark eyes fixed on her with an almost human intensity. A new coughing fit shook Sofia's body, causing her to drop the duster. Helena quickly stood up and picked up the object. "Here," she said, handing back the duster and surprisingly also offering a clean handkerchief. "Use this. We can't let you contaminate your father's books." The gesture, although practical, was the first sign of consideration Sofia had received that day. Her hands trembled as she accepted the handkerchief, and for a moment her eyes filled with tears. "No crying," Helena warned, but her voice was less harsh. "Finish the last moment. The investors arrive in 1 hour." Sofia resumed her work, aware of Prince's gaze following each of her movements. It was as if the horse understood her pain, her loneliness. Several times, when the cough forced her to stop, she could swear she heard a soft neigh of concern. Helena checked her wristwatch and sighed. "I'll go to the kitchen to check the lunch preparations. Finish this in 15 minutes or your father..." She did not finish the sentence, but it was unnecessary. Sofia knew well the consequences. As soon as Helena left, Sofia approached the window. Prince immediately pressed his muzzle against the glass, leaving a wet mark. It was the first time they had been so close. Through the glass, Sofia could see the details of his snow-white coat, the gentle eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "Hi, Prince," she whispered, her voice hoarse from coughing. "Kiki." The horse responded with a gentle nod, as if greeting her. For a brief moment, Sofia forgot her exhaustion, her illness, her fear. She saw something in the look of the animal that made her feel less alone. The sound of footsteps in the hallway made her quickly return to work. Helena returned, accompanied by the butler, who announced the early arrival of the investors. Sofia hurried to finish the last bookshelf, her heart racing. Before leaving the library, she cast one last glance at Prince. The horse remained there, his presence a silent promise that something was about to change at Valle das Rosas mansion. Afternoon at Valle das Rosas mansion. The afternoon was falling over the Valle das Rosas mansion when the first dark clouds began to form on the horizon. Sofia, now in the winter garden, struggled against exhaustion as she cleaned the enormous windows. Her movements grew slower and slower, hindered by the relentless fever. The meeting with the investors had ended just a short while ago, and she was in a good mood, which meant that maybe, just maybe, Sofia could sleep in her own little room that night, instead of the dreaded back room. Still, every task had to be executed perfectly. Outside, Prince had moved to accompany her in her new location. The horse seemed restless, alternating between the nearby grass and returning to watch her through the glass. His hooves tapped nervously on the ground every time Sofia twisted or stumbled. Maria, the cook, crossed the winter garden carrying an empty tray. Seeing Sofia trembling with fever as she tried to reach a particularly difficult stain high on the window pane, the lady could not hold back. "My God in heaven, girl," she whispered, placing the tray on a decorative table. "You are burning up with fever." Her wrinkled hands touched Sophia's forehead with the kindness only mothers possess. "This can't go on like this." "I'm fine, Mrs. Maria," Sophia replied automatically, her words interrupted by another coughing fit. "I just need to finish the windows before Daddy, your father." Maria interrupted, indignation showing in her usually controlled voice. "Eduardo Montenegro may be the richest man in this town, but what is he doing?" She stopped as she heard footsteps approaching. Helena entered the winter garden, her eyebrows raised, at the sight of Maria beside the girl. "Any problem here?" Maria quickly composed herself. "None. Just checking if the little one wasn't dirtying the windows instead of cleaning them." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. A distant thunder announced the approaching storm. Prince neighed outside, more agitated than ever. Helena cast a worried glance at the darkening sky. "Sophia, finish this quickly. We need to close all the windows before the rain starts." Maria hesitated before leaving, her eyes meeting Helena's in a silent plea. The housekeeper nodded imperceptibly, a tacit agreement forming between the two women. Sophia continued her work, each movement requiring more effort than the last. Her vision began to blur, and cold sweat ran down her forehead. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, creating dark spots on Prince's white coat, who refused to seek shelter. Helena watched the scene for a few moments before making a decision. "Sophia!" she called, her voice softer than usual. "Go to the kitchen and ask Maria for a new cloth. This one is too wet for the windows." Sophia felt grateful for the brief pause. Passing through the door leading to the kitchen, she could hear Helena murmuring something about not being able to stand seeing this anymore and how that child would die if it continued like this. In the kitchen, Maria was waiting with a glass of water and a piece of cake hidden under a napkin. "Eat quickly, little one," she instructed, checking that no one was nearby. "And take this too." She discreetly slid a fever pill into Sophia's hand. As Sophia ate gratefully, the thunder grew closer. The rain now fell heavily, and through the kitchen window she could see Prince still standing in the same spot, his white silhouette almost ghostly against the dark sky. "That horse," Maria commented, following Sophia's gaze. "I've never seen him act like this before. It's as if he's protecting you." Sophia swallowed the last piece of cake, feeling a little better with the food and medicine. "He is my friend," she whispered, the words escaping before she could hold them back. Maria smiled sadly. "Your mother had a special way with animals too," she revealed, her eyes distant with memory. "Laura always said they could see the truth in our souls." A new, closer thunder shook the mansion. Helena appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face a mask of concern. "Sophia, your father is calling. He wants you to clean his office before you go to bed." Sophia's heart sank. Eduardo's office was the most frightening room in the mansion, full of hunting trophies and stern portraits of ancestors. She always felt as if all those eyes were watching her, judging every move. As she left the kitchen, Sophia cast one last glance at Prince through the window. The horse remained in the rain, his white coat now completely soaked. Their eyes met, and at that moment, a lightning bolt cut across the sky, illuminating the entire garden. For a moment, it seemed to Sophia that there was something more in the animal's eyes, a determination, a promise. The storm was just beginning, and with it came a series of events that no one in the Valle das Rosas mansion could have foreseen. Eduardo Montenegro's office was a monument to ostentation. Heavy, dark green velvet curtains framed the floor-to-ceiling windows, while stuffed heads of exotic animals adorned the mahogany-paneled walls. The storm raging outside made the atmosphere even darker, with occasional lightning casting distorted shadows in the corners. Sophia entered carrying her bucket and cleaning cloths, trying not to tremble. The medicine Maria had given her had lowered her fever somewhat, but her throat still burned, and every breath was an effort. Eduardo was seated in his imposing leather chair, examining some documents under the light of a bronze lamp. "Start with the shelves," he ordered, without looking up. "And don't drop anything this time." The warning reminded Sophia of the previous week when her trembling hands had knocked over a small crystal elephant. The object had not broken, but the punishment had been severe. An entire night in the back room, without dinner. Sophia began her work methodically, just as Helena had taught her, from top to bottom, left to right, always paying extra attention to the corners where dust usually accumulated. Through the nearest window, she could see Prince, still faithfully standing in the rain, his white coat shining with each lightning flash. "That horse is acting strangely," Eduardo suddenly commented, following his daughter's gaze. "Maybe it's time to sell him." The senator's son had shown interest. Sophia's heart tightened in her chest. The idea of losing her only friend made her eyes fill with tears, which she quickly tried to hide by lowering her head, sensitive like her mother. Eduardo muttered in a tone full of disdain. "Laura used to cry about everything too. In the end, it didn't help her much, did it?" Sophia kept cleaning, pretending not to hear. But every word from her father was like a small dagger in her heart. A coughing fit shook her, causing her to lose her balance momentarily. "Don't you dare get sick," Eduardo warned in a sharp voice. "I'm not going to spend money on doctors because of you. It was already enough waste when your mother got sick." Outside, Prince neighed loudly, as if protesting the cruel words. The sound seemed to irritate Eduardo, who stood up abruptly. "This animal needs discipline," he declared, heading for the door. "I'll have Jorge put him in the stable, even if I have to use force." "Please, no," Sofia whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. Eduardo stopped, slowly turning to her. "What did you say?" Sofia swallowed hard, her heart pounding wildly. "Well, it's just that he might get hurt in the storm," she tried to explain, her voice trembling. The sound of Eduardo's hand slamming on the table echoed like thunder. "You have no right to have an opinion about anything in this house," he spat. "Your only job is to clean, and even that you barely do properly." At that moment, Helena hurriedly entered the office. "Mr. Montenegro," her voice tense. "Urgent phone call from the senator." Eduardo adjusted his tie, instantly composing himself. "Make sure she finishes everything here," he ordered the housekeeper before leaving. "And have Jorge bring that horse in." As soon as Eduardo left the room, Helena quickly approached Sofia. "There is no phone call," she whispered. "But I needed to get your father out of here." "You're burning up with fever, girl." Sofia shook her head determinedly. "I need to finish cleaning," she insisted, even though her legs barely supported her. "Stubborn like your mother." Helena sighed, a flash of affection in her usually stern eyes. Laura never admitted when she needed help either. A new lightning bolt illuminated the office, followed by the sound of hooves pounding heavily on the floor. Prince was growing more agitated, as if sensing something. "That horse?" Helena murmured, watching the animal through the window. "There's something different about him." She was interrupted by Jorge, the groom, who appeared soaked at the door. "Mrs. Helena, I can't get Prince into the stable. He's never acted like this before. It's as if he's protecting something." Helena looked from Jorge to Sofia, then to the horse, a sudden understanding dawning in her eyes. "Or someone," she finished softly. Sofia continued her work, each movement more difficult than the last. Her vision began to darken at the edges, but she knew she couldn't stop. The sound of rain mixed with the echo of Prince's hooves, creating a strange melody that seemed to pronounce something important. The night was just beginning at the Valle das Rosas mansion, and with it, a sequence of events that would forever change the fate of a little girl and her unlikely protector. The warmth of the kitchen. The kitchen of the Valle das Rosas mansion was the only place where the warmth felt genuine. On that stormy night, while Sofia finished cleaning the last silverware of the day, Maria and Helena whispered worriedly near the wood stove. The smell of hot soup filled the room, mingling with the aroma of fresh bread still left from dinner. "We can't just stand here anymore," Maria declared, her wrinkled hands nervously clutching her apron. "Have you seen how she is? The fever keeps rising, and that cough reminds me so much of Laura's last days." Helena adjusted her glasses, a gesture she always made when especially disturbed. "Eduardo will never allow us to call a doctor. Do you remember what happened the last time we tried to intervene?" The thunder that reverberated through the mansion seemed to emphasize the gravity of the situation. Sofia, barely able to hold the silver cloth in her trembling hands, stifled another coughing fit. "Come here, little one," Maria called, unable to continue watching the girl suffer. Sofia approached hesitantly, her steps unsteady. The cook helped her sit on a bench near the stove, wrapping her thin shoulders with an old shawl. "Jorge told me something interesting," Helena said, lowering her voice even more. "It seems the town's veterinarian, Dr. Miguel, is not only an animal specialist. Before moving here, he was a doctor in Sao Paulo. He changed professions after he lost his wife." Maria raised her eyebrows, immediately understanding. "And Eduardo never knew that?" "No. To him, Dr. Miguel is just the veterinarian who takes care of his precious horses." A sharp neigh cut through the night, making the three startle. Prince, still refusing to enter the stable, was now banging his hooves against the back door of the kitchen. "That horse," Helena murmured, moving closer to the window. "It's as if he knows." Sofia tried to stand, worried about Prince, but her legs gave way. Maria caught her just in time, preventing her from falling. "My God, she's burning up with fever." At that moment, Jorge entered through the back door, bringing with him a gust of wind and rain. "I'm sorry," he said, removing his soaked hat, "but I can't get Prince inside. He's never acted like this before." "He's getting more and more agitated." Helena exchanged a meaningful look with Maria. Jorge called out again, his voice taking on a determined tone. "How long do you think it would take to get to Dr. Miguel's house, even with this storm?" The groom scratched his chin thoughtfully. "About 20 minutes on horseback maybe, along the dirt road that cuts through the pastures." "Where is Eduardo?" Maria asked, adjusting Sofia's shawl over her shoulders. "Locked in the office with a bottle of whiskey," Jorge replied. "After that argument with the senator on the phone, I doubt he'll leave anytime soon." Helena took a deep breath, making a decision. Jorge, I need you to... She was interrupted by a dull thud. Sofia had fainted, slipping from the bench straight to the kitchen floor. Maria let out a muffled exclamation, running to help the girl. Holy Mother, Jorge exclaimed, helping lift Sofia. Her small body was as light as a feather, and her skin burned like embers. Outside, Prince began neighing frantically, his hooves pounding the door even harder. Enough hesitation, Helena declared, her voice trembling slightly. Jorge, you're going to Dr. Miguel right now. Tell him it's an emergency with one of the horses. He will come, I'm sure. But if the boss finds out, Jorge began hesitantly. If we do nothing, Maria interrupted, her hands caressing Sofia's damp hair. We'll have another death on our conscience. I can't go through that again. Not after Laura. A particularly strong lightning bolt lit up the kitchen, instantly followed by a deafening thunderclap. Prince neighed once more, as if approving the plan. Take Sofia to my room, Helena instructed Maria. It's warmer than hers, and Eduardo never goes there. Jorge, you know what to do. The groom nodded determinedly. I'll take Estrella, the bay mare. Prince is impossible today, and besides, he needs to stay here taking care of her. He finished, casting a meaningful look at the unconscious girl. While Jorge disappeared into the storm and Maria carried Sofia upstairs, Helena remained in the kitchen, watching Prince through the window. The horse was calmer now, as if understanding that help was on the way. Laura, the housekeeper whispered to the night air, help us save your little girl. The arrival of Dr. Miguel was about to retire for the night when he heard urgent knocks at his door. The storm roared outside, and he was not expecting visitors at that hour. Opening the door, he found Jorge completely soaked, his clothes dripping onto the entrance rug. Doctor, the groom panted, still catching his breath from the ride. We need you at the Montenegro mansion. It's an emergency. The veterinarian frowned, already reaching for his briefcase. In his early 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes behind round glasses, Dr. Miguel bore the marks of someone who had seen much suffering, both animal and human. Which horse? He asked, putting on his raincoat. Jorge hesitated for a moment. Actually, doctor, it's not exactly a horse. Dr. Miguel stopped his movements, instantly understanding. In a small town, secrets have short legs, and he had already heard the whispers about Montenegro's daughter. The girl? He asked softly, already knowing the answer. Jorge nodded, quickly explaining the situation. As he listened, the veterinarian's face grew increasingly serious. I'll get my other bag, he said, disappearing briefly into his office. When he returned, he carried 2 bags, one veterinary and another older one that had not been opened in years. The doctor's bag he had sworn never to use again after his wife's death. The ride back to the mansion was difficult. The rain fell in dense curtains and lightning turned night into day for brief moments. Dr. Miguel noticed Jorge had brought Estrella, the gentlest mare in the stable. Prince is different, Jorge explained, as if reading his thoughts. He doesn't leave the house. It's as if he knows the girl needs him. Arriving at the mansion, they entered through the back, where Helena awaited anxiously. The housekeeper led them upstairs, careful not to make noise. From Eduardo's office came the muffled sound of classical music. In Helena's room, they found Maria sitting beside the bed with cold compresses on Sofia's forehead. The girl was delirious with fever, murmuring disconnected words. Doctor. Miguel immediately approached, his medical instincts returning as if they had never slept. He examined Sofia with precise and gentle gestures, his expression growing more worried by the moment. Pneumonia, he finally diagnosed, and it's quite advanced. He opened his medical bag, taking out equipment he hadn't used in years. She will need antibiotics immediately. The boss will never allow that, Helena warned, wringing her hands. Then he can't know, Dr. Miguel replied simply, preparing an injection. I can't let another child die when I can do something. A loud neigh sounded outside, startling everyone. Dr. Miguel approached the window, curious. Prince was right below, his eyes fixed on the lit window. Extraordinary, murmured the veterinarian. In all my years working with animals, I've never seen behavior like this. He protects her, Maria explained, her voice choked as if she knew the girl had no one else. Doctor. Miguel administered the antibiotic and left other medications, explaining in detail how to give them. I'll come back tomorrow, he promised. I'll tell Eduardo I came to check on Prince, who seems ill. That won't be exactly a lie. At that moment, Sofia opened her eyes, her feverish gaze focusing on the doctor. Prince, she whispered. Is he okay? Yes, little one, doctor. Miguel answered softly, surprised by the strength of the connection between the girl and the animal. He's out there guarding your sleep. A weak smile lit Sofia's face before she fell asleep again. Dr. Miguel stood packing his equipment. Keep her warm and hydrated, he instructed. And if the fever rises too much, don't hesitate to call me, no matter the hour. Before leaving, the doctor paused once more by the window, watching Prince. The horse remained motionless in the rain, like a marble statue shining in the lightning. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "they say some animals can sense things we humans cannot. They can see through the masks we wear to see the true nature of people." Helena and Maria exchanged meaningful looks, while Jorge watched silently. Everyone there knew something extraordinary was happening at the Valle das Rosas mansion, something beyond human understanding. The storm continued its nocturnal symphony, but now, for the first time in a long while, there was a thread of hope hanging in the air, a hope shaped like a white horse and the heart of a little feverish girl. The next morning, the morning arrived grey and damp at the Valle das Rosas mansion. The storm had diminished to a persistent drizzle, leaving behind a trail of fallen branches and mirrored puddles in the gardens. Eduardo Montenegro woke with a severe headache, the result of the previous night's bottle of whiskey. Leaving his room, he noticed something different in the air. The mansion's usual silence was altered, as if an invisible current of tension flowed through the corridors. Normally, at that hour, he would already hear the sound of Sophia's broom against the floor or the clinking of the buckets she carried. "Helena," he called, his voice echoing through the walls. There was no immediate response, which was unusual. The housekeeper was always nearby in the early morning hours. Eduardo descended the stairs, his mood worsening with every step. In the living room, he found Maria cleaning the furniture, a task that should have been done by Sofia. "Where is my daughter?" he asked, his voice heavy with suspicion. Maria hesitated for a crucial moment before answering. "She isn't feeling well, sir." "Not feeling well?" Eduardo repeated with disdain. "Since when is that an excuse not to work? Where is she?" At that moment, a familiar neigh sounded outside. Eduardo approached the window and saw Prince, still in the same spot where he had been all night, his white coat stained with mud. "And what is that animal still doing there?" Eduardo bellowed, his voice thundering through the mansion. The groom appeared quickly, looking nervous. "Yes, sir. Why isn't Prince in the stable? And why is he covered in mud like any other horse?" "He's agitated, sir. I couldn't get him inside. Dr. Miguel even came to examine him last night." "What?" Eduardo interrupted sharply. "Who authorized calling the veterinarian?" A cough coming from upstairs caught his attention. Eduardo narrowed his eyes, recognizing the direction, the corridor of the servants' quarters. He hurried up the stairs, ignoring the protests of Maria and Jorge. In the hallway, he found Helena coming out of her own room, trying to close the door silently. "Get out of the way," ordered Mr. Montenegro. Helena tried to argue. "Please." Eduardo pushed her aside and opened the door. The scene he found made his blood boil. Sofia was lying on Helena's bed, covered with several blankets, with compresses on her forehead and medication on the nightstand. "What does this mean?" he roared, stepping into the room. Sofia woke, startled, trying to sit up in bed. Her face was red with fever and coughing shook her fragile body. "She is very ill," Helena explained, placing herself between Eduardo and the bed. "Dr. Miguel diagnosed pneumonia. She needs care." "Oh, Dr. Miguel," Eduardo cut in, his voice dangerously low. "The veterinarian? He used to be a doctor," Maria intervened from the doorway. "He knows what he's doing." Eduardo was silent for a moment, his face growing redder by the second. "Are you all conspiring behind my back?" He turned to Sofia. "And you, ungrateful, thinking you can shirk your duties?" At that instant, a deafening crash came from outside. Everyone ran to the window just in time to see Prince rearing up and striking the mansion's wall with his hoofs, exactly below the room. "This animal has gone mad," Eduardo declared. "Jorge, call the butcher. I'll get rid of him today." "No!" Sofia shouted, her voice hoarse from illness. It was the first time she faced her father directly. The slap echoed through the room. Helena and Maria stifled screams of horror as Sofia fell back onto the bed, a red mark on her pale face. What happened next seemed to occur in slow motion. Prince, as if sensing the aggression, let out a furious neigh and, stepping back, threw himself against the mansion's wall with all his strength. The impact was so violent that cracks appeared in the plaster and the floor of the room trembled. "He's going to bring the wall down!" Jorge exclaimed incredulously. Eduardo spun on his heels, marching out of the room. "That's enough. I'll put an end to this right now." But before he could reach the stairs, another sound filled the mansion. Sirens. From the hallway window, they saw a police car and a Child Protection Services vehicle passing through the property gates. Helena lifted her chin, facing Eduardo's furious gaze. "I called them," she declared. "I could no longer be complicit in this." Outside, Prince finally calmed down, as if satisfied with the arrival of help. The rain began to fall again, washing the mud from his white coat, while the sirens bathed the Valle das Rosas mansion in red and blue lights. The social workers' visit. The rain fell softly over the official cars parked in front of the Valle das Rosas mansion. Inside the living room, the tension was palpable. Eduardo Montenegro sat in his favorite armchair, maintaining a calm appearance that contrasted with the fury in his eyes. Before him, the social worker, Dr. Beatriz Santos, took notes on her clipboard while listening to Helena's testimony. "The girl has worked since she learned to walk," the housekeeper reported, her voice firm despite the fear. "Cleaning, scrubbing, carrying buckets far too heavy for her age. Even sick, she is forced to continue." "That's absurd," Eduardo interrupted, standing up. "I'm just teaching my daughter discipline. How I raise my own daughter is my business." "With all due respect, Mr. Montenegro, Dr. Beatriz replied calmly, "Child labor and medical neglect are state issues, especially considering the severity of the current situation." Upstairs, Dr. Miguel was examining Sofia again, now with the presence of a doctor from the local health clinic. Maria stayed by the bedside, holding the girl's hand, while 2 police officers stood guard at the bedroom door. Outside, Prince continued his silent vigil, now accompanied by Jorge, who tried to calm the animal. The horse had been calmer since the authorities arrived, but still kept his eyes fixed on the bedroom window where Sofia lay. "And what about the child's mother?" Dr. Beatriz asked, flipping through her notes. A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Maria, who had just come down the stairs, who answered. "Laura was one of the mansion's servants. Mr. Montenegro let her die. He denied her medical treatment when she fell ill." "That's slander," Eduardo protested, though his voice trembled slightly. "We have witnesses," Helena added. "All the old staff remember, and now he was doing the same with Sofia, Doctor." Beatrice made a few more notes before standing. "Mr. Montenegro, given the seriousness of the accusations and the child's health, Sofia will be temporarily removed from your custody to receive proper medical treatment." "You can't do that!" Eduardo exploded, advancing toward the social worker. The police officers immediately stepped between them. At that moment, Dr. Miguel came down the stairs, his face grave. "The girl needs to be hospitalized immediately. The pneumonia is advanced, and she shows signs of malnutrition and exhaustion." "And where do you intend to take her?" Eduardo asked, his tone threatening. "To my house," Dr. Miguel replied firmly. "I have proper medical facilities there, and my daughter Clara is a nurse. Later, when she is stronger, she will be transferred to the city hospital." A sharp neigh cut through the air, followed by the sound of hooves. Everyone rushed to the window just in time to see Prince rearing up as if approving the decision. "This animal also needs to be evaluated," Dr. Miguel continued. "His behavior is extraordinary. I have never seen anything like it in all my years as a veterinarian." "Prince is my property," Eduardo growled, "as is this house and everything in it." "Sofia is not property," Dr. Beatriz intervened, her voice cutting. "She is a child who needs protection, and the state will ensure she receives it." Outside, an ambulance had just arrived. Paramedics carried a stretcher up the stairs, and soon Sofia was being carefully transported out of the mansion. Her face was pale, but a shadow of a smile appeared when she saw Prince. The horse accompanied the stretcher to the ambulance, his hooves marking a soft rhythm on the wet earth. When they tried to move him away, he resisted, neighed, and stayed beside the vehicle. "Let him accompany her," Dr. Miguel suggested. "My property has enough space, and clearly there is a special bond between them." "That's theft!" Eduardo shouted, advancing toward the door. "I will sue all of you. You will have your chance to defend yourself in court," one of the police officers informed him. "For now, I suggest you stay in the mansion. We have many questions about Laura Montenegro's death as well." Helena and Maria watched the scene from the veranda, silent tears streaming down their faces. Years of fear and silence were finally coming to an end. Jorge had already saddled Estrella to accompany the ambulance to Dr. Miguel's house, carrying a small suitcase with Sofia's few clothes. "Can Laura rest in peace now?" Maria whispered, squeezing Helena's hand. "Your girl is saved." The ambulance slowly left down the dirt road, followed by Prince, who kept a steady, determined pace. The rain had stopped, and a weak ray of sunshine pierced the clouds, as if the very sky was blessing this moment of liberation. Dr. Miguel's house was known in town as the Yellow House, not only for its cheerful color, but for the warmth it radiated. Situated on a small property on the outskirts of town, it was a welcoming place, with a large green pasture and a small well-kept stable. Clara, the veterinarian's daughter, had carefully prepared the guest room. At 25 years old, she combined the professional competence of a nurse with a natural sweetness that reminded one of her late mother. When the ambulance arrived, she was already at the door, ready to receive Sofia. "It's going to be all right, little one," she whispered as she helped transfer the girl to a soft bed with clean sheets that smelled of lavender. "Here you are safe." Outside, Prince refused to enter the stable, preferring to stay near the bedroom window where Sofia rested. Dr. Miguel observed the animal's behavior with growing fascination. "In all my years of practice," he commented to Clara, "I have never seen such a deep connection between an animal and a human being. It's as if he knows exactly what she needs." The night passed with Clara and Dr. Miguel taking turns caring for Sofia, The fever was still high, but the antibiotics were beginning to take effect. Every hour they could hear Prince neighing softly, as if checking that all was well. In the morning, Sophia opened her eyes, initially confused by the unfamiliar surroundings. The room was bright and cozy, decorated with floral curtains and a small bookshelf with children's books. On the nightstand was a glass of fresh water and a vase with freshly picked daisies. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Clara smiled as she entered the room with a tray. "I brought your breakfast. Do you think you can eat a little?" Sophia looked at the tray with wide eyes. There was porridge with honey, fresh fruit cut into small pieces, and a glass of orange juice. She had never had breakfast in bed before. "Do I need to clean something in return?" she asked timidly. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, her gentle eyes firmer now. "No, dear. Here you don't have to clean anything. Your only task is to rest and get better." A familiar neigh made Sophia turn to the window. Prince was there, his head appearing on the sill, his attentive eyes fixed on her. For the first time in days, a genuine smile lit the girl's face. "He didn't leave all night," Clara explained, helping Sophia sit up. "Daddy says he's never seen a horse so dedicated." Dr. Miguel entered the room at that moment, carrying his medical bag. "How is our patient today?" he asked cheerfully, although his experienced eyes were already assessing the girl's color and disposition. "Can Prince stay?" Sophia asked anxiously before the doctor could examine her. "Of course he can, Doctor." Miguel smiled, sitting down to listen to her lungs. "Actually, I think it would be impossible to send him away. He chose to be your guardian." While the doctor performed the checkup, Clara opened the curtains wider, letting the morning light fully enter. Sophia could then see the extent of the property, the green pasture, flowering trees, and a small pond in the distance. "It's like a completely different world from the dark mansion where you lived all your life." "Look at that, Doctor," Miguel commented happily after the exam. "The fever has already gone down a bit and your breathing is less congested. The medicine is working." "When do I need to come back?" Sophia asked softly, fear showing in her words. Clara and Doctor. Miguel exchanged a meaningful glance before he answered. "You won't come back, Sophia." The social worker, Dr. Beatriz, had assured that she would stay here until fully recovered. "Then we will figure out together what will be the best place for you." The words seemed surreal to Sophia. Not coming back. No longer waking before sunrise to clean the mansion. No more punishments in the dark room. As if sensing her confusion, Prince neighed softly, stretching his neck into the room. Clara approached the window and briefly stroked the horse's muzzle. "You know," she said, turning to Sophia, "they say horses can see through people's souls. I think Prince saw something very special in you, something maybe you don't even know exists yet." Sophia reached out toward the window and Prince immediately stretched his neck to reach her. The touch of his soft muzzle was like a silent promise. The days of suffering were behind her now. Clara smiled, adjusting the pillows. "How about we get to know some stories?" She reached for a colorful book from the shelf. "This was my favorite when I was your age." For the first time in her short life, Sophia experienced what it was to be truly cared for. Outside, Prince finally moved away from the window, grazing peacefully under the morning sun, as if knowing his charge was finally in good hands. The city reacts. While Sophia regained her strength in the yellow house, the entire town buzzed with the events at the Valdas Rosas mansion. The police had installed yellow tape around the property, and patrol cars came and went constantly, carrying documents and evidence. Helena and Maria had been called to give new statements, this time about Laura's death. Jorge also contributed, revealing years of silent observations about the mistreatment, not only of Sophia, but also of her late mother. At the Yellow House, the morning began with a special discovery. Clara had found an old box in the attic containing photographs from when her father was still a doctor in Sao Paulo. Among them, one caught her particular attention, a young smiling nurse next to her mother at the hospital where they both worked. "Dad!" she called, coming down the stairs with the photograph in her hands. "Look at this." Dr. Miguel adjusted his glasses, examining the image. His face paled slightly. "Laura," he murmured. "It can't be." "Sophia's mother?" Clara asked, though she already knew the answer. Yes, she did her residency at the same hospital as her mother before moving here. She was a brilliant, dedicated nurse. His voice faltered. If I had recognized the name when I moved to this town." In the room, Sophia was having her first respiratory physiotherapy session, recommended by the local health clinic doctor. Through the open window, she could hear Prince grazing peacefully, his bell tinkling softly in the morning breeze. "Breathe slowly," the physiotherapist gently instructed, like the movement of ocean waves. Sophia had never seen the sea, but imagined it through the stories Clara had begun reading to her. Each day brought a new discovery, the taste of hot chocolate on cold mornings, the pleasure of drawing with new colored pencils, the comfort of a loving hug before sleep. Dr. Miguel entered the room after the session carrying the photograph. His expression was gentle, but his eyes shone with restrained tears. Sophia called softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Would you like to see something special?" The girl looked curiously at the photograph he held out. Her eyes widened as she recognized the young, smiling face of her mother. "Mom," she whispered, touching the image with trembling fingers. Her mother was an extraordinary nurse, Dr. Miguel explained in a gentle voice. "She worked with my wife in Sao Paulo, saving lives, caring for people, just as you deserve to be cared for now." Sophia hugged the photograph to her chest, silent tears running down her cheeks. Outside, Prince neighed softly as if sharing that moment of emotion. "Fate has mysterious ways of working," Dr. Miguel continued. "Maybe it is no coincidence that you ended up right here, where your mother has a story." Clara, who had been watching from the door, approached with a carved wooden box. "I found this too," she said, opening the lid. Inside was an old stethoscope and a small diary. "It was hers, Dr. Miguel," Clara confirmed, recognizing the delicate handwriting on the yellowed pages. Laura always wrote about her patients, about her dreams. The sound of hooves drew everyone's attention. Prince had moved closer to the window, gently pushing aside the lace curtains with his muzzle. "You know," Clara smiled, "they say when special people leave us, they find ways to keep protecting those they love. Sometimes through angels, other times through white horses." Sophia looked at Prince, a new understanding dawning in her eyes. Could it be that her mother had somehow sent that special protector? The moment was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Beatriz. The social worker brought important news about the investigation. "We found Laura's will," she announced after the proper greetings. Eduardo had kept it hidden. In it, she not only legally recognized Sofia as a Montenegro daughter, but also left her share of the family inheritance to the girl. "What inheritance?" Dr. Miguel asked, surprised. "Laura came from a traditional family in Sao Paulo," Dr. Beatriz explained. "When she fell in love with Eduardo and decided to follow him, she gave up everything but never renounced her share of her parents' inheritance, which she left to Sofia in her will." The revelation hung in the air like the last piece fitting into a complex puzzle. Laura had not only protected her daughter through legal documents, but also ensured her financial future. "She thought of everything," Clara murmured admiringly. Sofia looked from the photograph to Prince, her little heart overflowing with emotions she could barely understand. For the first time, she felt she had a story, an origin, a family, not just by blood but by heart. Outside, the morning sun bathed the yellow house in golden light, while Prince stood his faithful watch like a guardian, sent by a love that transcended time and death itself. News of Laura's will spread quickly through the small town. The Valle das Rosas mansion, once a symbol of Eduardo Montenegro's untouchable power, was now surrounded by police and investigators. Reporters from the local newspaper crowded the gates, eager for any information about the case that was shocking the community. Eduardo remained locked in his office, drinking more and more, while his lawyers desperately tried to find legal loopholes to protect him. The evidence, however, piled up like an avalanche impossible to stop. Helena and Maria had handed over to the police an old diary, kept hidden for years in the kitchen. It secretly recorded every incident of abuse against Sofia and, before her, against Laura. Jorge contributed photographs he had discreetly taken over the years, showing little Sofia doing heavy work, even while sick. At the Yellow House, unaware of the storm brewing around her father, Sofia began to flourish under the care of her new protectors. Her cough gradually lessened, and healthy colors returned to her face. Each day brought a new discovery, a new joy long denied. "Look," Clara exclaimed one morning, entering the room with a colorful box. "I found my old dolls. Want to play with me?" Sofia looked in wonder at the rag dolls, touching them with hesitant fingers as if they were precious treasures. "Can I?" "Of course you can, dear," Clara smiled, sitting on the carpet beside the bed. "And later, if you feel strong enough, we can take a little walk to the garden." Prince was eager for some closer affection. As if he had heard his name, the horse neighed softly outside. In recent days, he had finally accepted sleeping in the stable, but spent every free moment near Sofia's window. Dr. Miguel entered the room carrying not his medical bag, but an old photo album. "I found more pictures of your mother," he announced, his eyes shining, including some from the day she graduated in nursing. She was one of the best in her class. While Sofia and Clara explored the photographs, Dr. Beatriz arrived for her daily visit. Her normally serene face bore an expression of contained triumph. "The judge has issued the order," she announced without preamble. "Eduardo Montenegro is officially prohibited from approaching Sofia. And there's more. Based on new evidence about Laura's death, he is being investigated for criminal negligence." Dr. Miguel nodded gravely. "And what about the inheritance?" "The will is valid and irrefutable," Dr. Beatriz confirmed. Sofia is the legal heir not only to her mother's fortune, but also entitled to half of Eduardo's assets as his legitimate daughter. The judge has appointed a financial guardian to manage everything until she reaches adulthood. Clara, who was playing with Sofia on the carpet, watched the girl absorbed in combing the wool hair of a doll. It was impressive how she seemed oblivious to material matters, even now that she was discovering she was heir to a considerable fortune. "And how long is the wait?" Dr. Miguel asked softly, not wanting to disturb the innocence unfolding on the carpet. Dr. Beatriz smiled for the first time, revealing a more personal emotion. "Well, about that I have a proposal to make." Before she could continue, an agitated neigh from Prince caught everyone's attention. The horse was particularly restless, rhythmically pounding his hooves on the ground. "What is it, buddy?" Clara approached the window concerned. The answer came in the form of distant sirens. Dr. Miguel ran to the veranda and returned with surprising news. Eduardo Montenegro had tried to flee the mansion during the early morning hours, taking documents and money. The police had intercepted him on the road to the capital. "How did Prince know?" Sofia asked, her wide eyes fixed on the horse. "Some animals have a special gift," Dr. Miguel explained softly. "They can sense things that we humans cannot perceive. Prince has been your guardian angel from the start, hasn't he?" Sofia rose from the carpet and, for the first time since arriving at the Yellow House, walked alone to the window. Prince immediately brought his muzzle close, gently touching her outstretched hand. "He reminds me of Mommy," she said quietly. "When I'm with him, I feel as if she's hugging me." Clara and Dr. Miguel exchanged emotional glances, while Dr. Beatriz discreetly wiped away a tear. The bond between the girl and the horse was something that transcended normal understanding, as if truly guided by a higher power. "Sofia," Dr. Beatriz called softly, "how about we talk about your future? I have some ideas I think you will like." The girl turned to the social worker, still caressing Prince's muzzle. The morning sun streamed through the window, enveloping her in a golden glow, like a promise that the darkest days were definitely behind her. The scent of roses from the Yellow House garden filled Dr. Miguel's office that special afternoon. Sofia sat in a soft armchair, her little legs swinging without reaching the floor, while Dr. Beatriz carefully explained the plans for her future. Clara held her hand, offering silent support, and Dr. Miguel watched the scene with attentive eyes and an anxious heart. "Sofia," Dr. Beatriz began in a gentle voice, "you know you can't go back to the mansion, right?" The girl nodded, unconsciously squeezing Clara's hand. "So, we need to decide where you will live now, and we have some very special options to consider." Through the open window, they could hear Prince's soft neigh as he grazed peacefully in the garden, never far from Sofia. "Actually," the social worker continued, exchanging a meaningful look with Dr. Miguel, "we have a very special proposal for you. Dr. Miguel and Clara would like to know if you would accept becoming a permanent part of their family." Sofia's eyes widened, shifting between Dr. Miguel and Clara as if trying to understand the meaning of those words. "That means," Clara explained kindly, "that you would be my little sister. You would live here with us forever, not just as a guest, but as part of the family." "And Prince?" Sofia whispered. Dr. Miguel smiled, touched by the girl's concern for her protector. "Prince is already part of the family. I also have documents here that officially transfer his ownership to you. He will never have to return to the mansion." Sofia was silent for a moment, processing all that information. Her life had changed so drastically in the past few weeks that sometimes it seemed like a dream. "But there is one more thing," Dr. Beatriz added. "Remember the inheritance your mother left you? Well, we decided to use part of it for a very special project." Clara stood up and took a folder with drawings and plans. "We want to transform the Valle das Rosas mansion into a home for children who need help, just like you did. A place where they can feel safe and loved. And do you know what the name will be?" Dr. Miguel asked softly. "Casa Laura, in honor of your mother. It will be a place where her spirit of care and love will live on, helping other children." Tears began to silently stream down Sofia's face. They were not tears of sadness, but of a profound emotion too big for her little heart to contain. "And there is one more surprise." Clara smiled, taking out another envelope. "Remember how you said you had never seen the sea? Well, as soon as you are fully recovered, we will take a family trip. You, me, Daddy, and yes, we found a place on the beach where Prince can come with us." A stronger neigh sounded from the garden, as if the horse approved the plan. Everyone laughed, the tension of the moment dissolving. "So, Sofia," Dr. Beatriz asked kindly, "what do you think of all these changes?" The girl looked out the window, where Prince was now approaching, his white coat shining under the afternoon sun. Then her eyes scanned the gentle face of Dr. Miguel, the loving smile of Clara, and finally rested on the photograph of her mother, which now held a place of honor on the office wall. Her voice trembled slightly. Can I call you dad and sister? Clara could not hold back her tears, embracing Sofia with all the love she had kept in her heart since the little girl arrived at the yellow house. Doctor. Miguel joined the hug, his glasses fogged with emotion. Dr. Beatriz watched the scene with professional satisfaction and personal joy. In her years of work, few cases had touched her heart like Sofia's. I think we have our answer. She smiled, beginning to organize the adoption papers. Prince neighed again, this time more softly, almost like a lullaby. The afternoon sun created a rainbow through her joyful tears still wetting the window, as if nature itself celebrated that moment. Family, Sofia whispered, testing the word, feeling its sweet taste. My family. And at that moment, in the yellow house, under the protective gaze of a white horse, and the gentle spirit of a mother who never stopped loving her daughter, a new chapter began to be written, a chapter of love, healing, and second chances, proving that sometimes happy endings are not just fairy tales. 6 months later, 6 months had passed since that special afternoon in the Yellow House office. The Valle das Rosas mansion was unrecognizable. The shadows that once dominated its corridors had given way to light pouring abundantly through the now always open windows. The walls, once dark-toned, shone in cheerful colors, decorated with children's drawings and smiling photographs. Sofia, now fully recovered and blossoming under the love of her new family, actively participated in transforming the place that had once been her prison. She was helping decorate what would be the girls' room at Casa Laura, but this time it was different. She did it by choice, with joy, her small hands painting colorful butterflies on the walls. Look, Clara, she called excitedly, showing a particularly beautiful butterfly she had just painted. This one is blue like the sky and the sea. Clara smiled, remembering the recent family trip to the beach. Sofia had been enchanted by the ocean and Prince had surprisingly loved walking on the sand during sunset. You're beautiful, my little artist, Clara praised, adjusting the braid in her younger sister's hair. Sofia's hair, once always poorly cared for, now shone healthy and vibrant. Decorated with colorful ribbons she loved to wear, Sofia's hair now shone healthy and vibrant. Helena and Maria, who had decided to continue working at the transformed mansion, happily organized what would become the new kitchen of Casa Laura. The aroma of freshly baked cookies filled the air, mingling with the scent of fresh paint and flowers from the garden. Who would have thought, Maria remarked, drying her hands on her apron, that this place would one day be so full of life. Jorge, now responsible for the institution's stables, entered, carrying a bundle of fresh hay. The masons have finished renovating the barn, he announced. Soon we'll be able to bring more horses for therapy with the children. The idea of using horses as part of the children's healing process had come from Dr. Miguel. Inspired by the special connection between Sofia and Prince, he had developed an equine therapy program that would be an integral part of Casa Laura's work. Laura, Sofia, Clara called. Want to go see how Prince is? He's been very interested in the work at the new stable. The two went out to the garden, where the late afternoon sun filtered through the tree canopies. Prince grazed peacefully near the rose bushes that had been replanted. Not the dark red roses Eduardo preferred, but a colorful variety including the pink roses that had been Laura's favorite. Hello, friend, Sofia whispered, approaching the horse. Prince immediately lifted his head, his gentle eyes fixed on her, with the same protective love as always. Dr. Miguel, supervising the installation of new physiotherapy equipment, stopped to watch the scene. He was still impressed by how the horse, once known for his fiery temperament with Eduardo, completely transformed in Sofia's presence. Dad, Clara called, waving for him to come closer. Show Sofia the surprise that arrived today. The veterinarian smiled, pulling a small shiny object from his pocket. It was a golden plaque, beautifully engraved, Casa Laura Home and Children's Rehabilitation Center, where every child is a treasure to be protected. Sofia's eyes sparkled as she read the words. Just like Mommy used to say, she asked, recalling the stories Clara and Dr. Miguel had shared about Laura. Exactly as she said, Dr. Miguel confirmed softly. We found that phrase in her diary. It was what she believed, and it's what we're going to do here. Prince approached, gently touching the plaque with his muzzle, as if giving his approval. The setting sun cast a golden halo around his white mane, reminding her of all the magical moments that had led them there. The first children arrive next week, Clara said, putting her arm around her sister's shoulders. Are you excited to make new friends? Sofia nodded, though a shadow of worry crossed her face. Will they be scared at first, like I was? Probably, Dr. Miguel answered honestly. But that's why you're here. You can show them it is possible to find joy again, that there are people, and even special horses, ready to help. As if understanding her role in this mission, Prince neighed softly. Sofia smiled, stroking his strong neck. You know, Clara said thoughtfully, sometimes I think it wasn't by chance that Prince chose to protect you. Maybe your mother sent him, knowing that one day you would help other children find their own path to healing. Sophia hugged Prince's neck, feeling the comforting warmth of his soft coat. On the horizon, the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, the same colors now decorating the rooms of Casa Laura. Mom would be happy, she whispered, more for herself than for others. And everyone who heard her knew she was right. The transformation was almost complete. What had once been a place of shadows and fear was becoming a beacon of hope and love, proving that sometimes the greatest changes begin with the brave heart of a little girl and the unconditional loyalty of a white horse. The opening day, the day of Casa Laura's inauguration, dawned with a perfectly blue sky, as if the universe itself was smiling on the occasion. The rose bushes in the garden were in full bloom, creating a multicolored carpet stretching as far as the eye could see. In the newly painted white stable with sky blue details, Prince waited eagerly alongside 3 other horses carefully selected for the equine therapy program. Sophia, wearing a light blue dress and a matching ribbon in her hair, stood beside Clara at the main entrance, welcoming the first children to arrive. Her heart raced, mixing anxiety and joy as she saw the little faces that, like hers not long ago, bore marks of past sadness. "Welcome to Casa Laura," she said softly to a particularly shy girl hiding behind the social worker. "Do you want to meet the horses?" The girl, no older than 7 years, looked up with interest. Sophia extended her hand, remembering how she herself had needed kindness and patience to learn to trust again. "My special friend is called Prince," she continued, guiding the girl toward the stable. "He helped me when I was sad and now wants to help other children too." Dr. Miguel watched from the veranda, his heart overflowing with pride. Beside him, Dr. Beatrice smiled, moved by the transformation of little Sophia into a young caregiver. "It's amazing," the social worker commented, "how she manages to connect with the children. It's as if she knows exactly what they need to hear." Helena and Maria, wearing new aprons with the Casa Laura logo, served hot chocolate and freshly baked cookies to the visitors. The sweet aroma mingled with the scent of roses, creating a welcoming atmosphere that made everyone feel instantly at home. Jorge led a small group of older children on a tour of the stables, explaining how the horses would be an important part of their recovery. Prince, as always, showed special sensitivity, gently lowering his head to allow the more frightened children to touch him. "See," Jorge explained, "each horse has its own personality, but they all have something in common. They know when someone needs love and protection." Clara, who had completed a special course in equine therapy, joined the group with a radiant smile. "And you know the most amazing thing? Prince taught us that. He showed us that sometimes angels have 4 legs and a white mane." The children laughed, and that rare and precious sound echoed through the fields like music. Sophia felt her heart expand as she realized that the place which had once been the scene of so much sadness was now filled with laughter and hope. At the end of the afternoon, as the sun began to set, everyone gathered in the garden for a special moment. Dr. Miguel had prepared a small inauguration ceremony with the presence of local authorities and community families. "Casa Laura," he began his speech, "is born from a story of love. The love of a mother for her daughter, the love of an animal for a child in need, and the love that we all discover we are capable of giving when we open our hearts." Sophia stood beside Prince, her small hand resting on the horse's neck. Clara hugged her by the shoulders, and together they watched the sky turn pink and gold. "Look!" one of the children suddenly pointed out. A perfect rainbow had formed over the property, even though it had not rained. Its vibrant colors seemed to touch exactly the 2 most significant points of the place, the new Casa Laura sign and the stable where Prince now lived. "It's a sign," Sophia whispered, and everyone who heard her felt the truth in her words. "Mommy is happy." Prince neighed softly as if in agreement. The wind blew gently, carrying rose petals that danced in the air like little colorful stars. Dr. Miguel raised his glass of juice, proposing a toast. "To Laura, whose light continues to shine through love. To Sophia, who taught us that courage sometimes comes in small packages. And to Prince, who showed us that miracles happen every day if we have eyes to see and hearts to believe." The glasses tinkled, reflecting the last rays of the setting sun. Sophia closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of Clara's embrace, the protective presence of Prince, and something more. A soft, fragrant sensation, like the touch of a gentle hand in her hair. "Thank you, Mommy," she murmured to the wind. And so, as the night gently fell over Casa Laura, a new story began. A story of healing, second chances, and unconditional love. A story proving that even in the darkest nights, there is always a white horse guarding our dreams, and a brighter dawn waiting for us just beyond the horizon.